Hello and welcome back to my channel and my long COVID talks. A little personal update. In the last few weeks, have started feeling better. I don't think I'm out of the woods yet, but I surfed this weekend, which I used to be super active, which from a lot of the comments I see is a lot of you, right? You were normal, healthy people. Um, And finally I surfed, and I feel like that's a huge milestone because a few weeks ago, like thinking about surfing was exhausting. Like I live in a second floor apartment, and the thought of like taking my surfboard downstairs to my car, driving to a surf spot, like since I've had long COVID, I have barely left my city because I'm afraid of like being so exhausted that I can't drive myself home because sometimes that happens. I would be so tired that I'd be like, oh my God, I feel like I just want to close my eyes and go to sleep, but I'm on the freeway. So previously, even thinking about taking my surfboard downstairs, all the steps needed to go surfing, I was like, there's no way I'll be exhausted doing just that. So I feel like this was huge progress for me to go surfing. I chose a surf spot. So if you are local to Southern California, you know, Newport Pier, Blackies, that's where I chose to go because number one, it was like really small, like 1 to 2 feet. Because my biggest fear also before was like, what if I feel fine? And then what if my symptoms hit me and I'm like in the middle of the ocean, right? Or like a big set of waves come and I am exhausted and I can't get out of it, right? Like that happens when you surf. And so I was like, let me choose a spot. So at Blackie's at the Newport Pier, it's like you park right at the edge of the sand. It's a short walk to the water and it's a short paddle from the water's edge to the surf spot. And then it was really small. So it was not my best surf session, but I was like so happy to do it. I'm definitely out of shape and too slow and missed a lot of easy waves, but it felt good. And then I drove home, which is again the furthest I've driven in months, and I was okay. And I was tired, but my heart rate wasn't crazy. So that night, my heart rate spiked twice in the night to like 110. So that's one of my symptoms is like my heart rate spikes, and it didn't happen during the day and it didn't happen on Sunday. So I'm recording this a couple days later, just to make sure it all went well. And so I was really happy, and that gives me hope. I know a lot of you are like the long haulers, you know? And for me, I sort of hoped that this would be how it was. Like, okay, it's just going to take me longer to clear the virus and to feel better. And so in healthcare and medicine, I'm not a doctor, by the way. This is my personal experience, and I'll tell you like some physical therapy stuff. But there's sort of like sometimes time is the thing that we cannot control. I tell my patients this all the time. So sometimes time will make you better. And I don't know what the numbers are for long COVID or chronic fatigue, but I feel like there's a point where it's like, if it doesn't get better, then the outcome is maybe worse, right? And when I started looking into research, so this is kind of what I want to talk to you guys about now, is I've been really looking into research and like, what does the science say? Is there any science on this? Are there any treatments? And the research talks about long COVID and chronic fatigue in a couple ways. Like, one of the main theories is that you have a remnant of the virus still. So whether it's COVID, whether it's flu, whether it's some other virus, that your body just can't clear it away. And that's why you get the chronic fatigue. And so I have to learn more about this, but sort of the theories are like the mitochondria, this is like really sciencey, is the powerhouse of the cell. And it like can't bind with oxygen. These are like, I gotta do another video on this, but sort of that's like why the heart rate for me and for people like me that have my symptoms or chronic fatigue symptoms, why their heart rate increases or why they're like super exhausted is like the oxygen can't bind because there's part of the virus in the cells. If I'm like saying this correctly, if there's any science people out there that want to correct me, please feel free to tag another video. but like the oxygen can't bind. And so then you get fatigued and then your heart rate goes up. So it's like things that normally should be low level send you into what we call an anaerobic state. So aerobic is like, long distance running, long distance cycling, right? Like you have oxygen to replace it. Anaerobic is like you're using a different energy system and you run out of energy faster. So think of like sprinting, right? Like sprinters can only sprint so far. And so that's sort of the theory of what's happening in long COVID or chronic fatigue is your body, the mechanism, somehow it's not binding with oxygen in the cells. So it sends you into this anaerobic state by doing just simple activities. And that makes a lot of sense to me of what I felt, right? And I can also tell you as a physical therapist, since 2020, the literature that we've gotten, and when I say literature, I mean like scientific research, has been saying like exercise doesn't help with long COVID. And so I've known this and I've kind of like looked at the research a little bit, but I've known like exercise does not help long COVID and chronic fatigue. And now I understand why. I understand on a personal level, like exercise made me way worse. But I understand now more on the like biology level of just the cells can't use oxygen properly. There's probably remnants of a virus blocking some process at the cellular level. And then you go into this anaerobic state much sooner than you normally would. Like I said, I'll try to like research that more and give you a better scientific explanation, but it makes a ton of sense to me. So the problem is, which I encountered, and I'm sure tons of you guys have too, is like, doctors don't believe you, right? And then they tell you like, just do physical therapy, exercise, but that actually makes it worse. And I'll link these resources below, but one of my friends who's a physical therapist sent me this YouTube about another physical therapist. I think his name is Todd Davenport, and he talks about the process, so I'll link his stuff below. But one of the hallmarks of chronic fatigue and what we call post-exertional malaise, so sort of like after exercise you feel worse, which again was a hallmark of my symptoms. The process I just talked about, but how you test for it is giving people a stress test. So there's in cardiac therapy, cardiac rehab, there's something called a stress test. So it's like, it's a certain protocol. You walk on an incline on a treadmill at a certain pace and a certain incline, and it increases every incremental time. I had to do this in physical therapy school and I haven't done it since, so I don't know the exact parameters, but it's a protocol. And then they're sort of like aged matched normal. And for chronic fatigue or post-exertional malaise, the test for that sort of proves that you have it is like, if you do this test and you do it 3 times, so like, I think it's 24 or 48 hours apart, it's like the second and third test you'll do worse, which totally makes sense from my personal experience, and the biology makes sense to me too. It's like your body can't recover. Whereas like if you were just lazy, your test would probably be the same at the first, second, and third, right? It would be similar. But for those who have chronic fatigue or long COVID chronic fatigue, the body just doesn't use the energy correctly, and then it can't recover. And so that's what I found too. The thing that worked the best for me was just a lot of rest. And it sucks and I hated it. And I'm not out of the woods yet. I'm still being really cautious. But I mean, I have a physical job, so just coming to work every day, I would be exhausted. And I think this is the other part, like, I'm grateful I didn't have the like extreme fatigue. Like some people literally can't get out of bed. I'll link another person. So the physics girl is someone I started following, and then she got COVID and then turned into long COVID. And she's 2 or 3 years later finally coming to the other side of it. But seeing like she had an extreme case. And I'm grateful I could still do my job, but I think that's also why doctors often don't believe you. It's like, you look normal, right? You look like a functioning human. And I'm like, yeah, I could function while I need to, but then I go home and I'm exhausted. I sit on the couch. I was literally prioritizing sleeping or being in bed 10 hours a night, whether that was sleeping or resting. If I woke up before I needed to, I would stay in bed. And so I spent lots of time on my phone that I don't really want to. I've been reading a ton of books. If you have any recommendations, let me know. But to me, I think that was the best thing for me. And I think for chronic fatigue, that is, you have to prioritize rest. And, another thing sometimes I'll tell you is go to physical therapy and learn activity pacing. So also in the research, it's sort of like chronic fatigue is known. One of the main theories is this, that there's viral remnants. You haven't cleared the virus completely, whether it's COVID or something else. And that makes you fatigued. But basically, like, I could get through my day, but then I would be exhausted. And so I would literally just force myself to sit on the couch and rest. And then I got a smartwatch, which I never had one before because I don't want that much data. But that's sort of one of the things that they say to do is sort of like track your activity and then watch your heart rate. And when your heart rate starts to increase, that's when it's time to rest. So to me, I think the two things that helped me is rest, a lot of rest, and time. And I tell my patients this with like other chronic illnesses is like time is one of the things that we just can't control, for good or for bad. Sometimes time is the factor. And in physical therapy, we know this, like sometimes time just helps people get better. Yeah, so I'm going to record my next video. We'll talk a little bit more about what I found in the research, what it says about long COVID and chronic fatigue, and more about the process and more about what treatments are out there. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.